Today, we're gonna be deleting that. We're gonna put this in. First up, get the rear tire in the air using a rear stand or some sort of motorcycle jack. This is a 2013 GSXR 1000. Mainly set up to drag race and roll race. Get street ridden a lot. Next, you're gonna wanna break the rear axle nut loose. This is an evil swing arm, so it might be different on yours depending on what type of swing arm you have. In this case, it's a 36 millimeter. Next, you'll want to take and release these jam nuts. This is how you adjust the chain. I'm sure you know that, but you're going to want to break these loose. In this case, it is a 11/16. Now you're going to want to do the same to the other side. Break these loose. Now that the jam nuts are loose, the axle nut is loose on both sides, you're going to want to just push this axle through the wheel. It's hard to film and do that at the same time, but that's what you're going to want to do. And after that, you'll unhook the chain from the sprocket. Just keep an eye on the spacers that fall out of the wheels. You'll want to keep those on the same sides that they come off of. Rear wheel is now off. These are the spacers that I was talking about that you just want to keep an eye on. Next, we're going to pull off the rear brake rotor. I'm going to remove these 5 bolts using a 6mm Allen. Sometimes they can be kind of tough because they usually have Loctite on them. We're going to do that next. Next, we'll clip these zip ties to get this bracket and caliper off. And then we're also going to take this master cylinder off and this lever because we won't need any of that. At least while we're riding on the street. All of this will have to go back on whenever we plan to visit the local drag strip. Instead of buying that spacer like I did, some people choose to cut the top part of this bracket off and just use this chunk down here. It does basically the same thing that the spacer does, but whereas I will be hitting the drag strip, I'll need this bracket at a later time. So yeah, that's why I went that route. We're gonna cut these zip ties next and work on getting this master cylinder off. We're just gonna remove that cotter pin right here. There's a washer in the back, and this will then slide out. We're gonna remove this bolt, and we're gonna remove this bolt to get this lever off of here. Alright, so we got the master cylinder unbolted, got the caliper, zip ties cut. We're just gonna pop this panel off so we can get to the bolt for the brake fluid reservoir. So we're gonna go ahead and do that next. Just remove that little screw and this will all just pop out. And that bolt right in there is the one we're gonna take off holding the reservoir. It's just an 8mm and an extension. Now we're just gonna loosen it up. And here's what we eliminated. The caliper, the bracket, the rest that comes with the factory evil swing arm, obviously the line, the reservoir, the master, and some hardware. This can all stay together and makes it fairly easy and quick to get back on. Getting to this point without filming would probably take, realistically, 10 minutes tops. So not an easy, not a hard, should I say, conversion to do, depending on what style of riding or racing you're doing that day. Here is the caliper delete spacer that we got from Spencer Cycle. Comes with instructions. Obviously recommends that you don't use a brake caliper delete on the street, but people are going to do what they want. So here's the product, and we'll go ahead and get this installed next. All right, so we got the wheel back on loosely. The chain is on. Now we just need to set the tension with the adjusters. And here you can see that spacer. Obviously the axle nut's not on, so it's not tight, but that spacer makes up the difference that our brake caliper used to. So we're gonna get these adjusted and set the chain tension. All right, we're all done doing the rear brake delete. Spacer's in, axle nuts torqued, adjuster nuts tightened and locked together, chain tensioned, handles all back on. This thing really needs a bath. Yeah, lost some weight and some rotating mass, so we'll see how we like it. First time riding without a rear brake, so we'll see how that goes. Next up, going to delete the ignition for a little bit more weight savings. Every little bit counts, so stay tuned for that video if you're interested.